systems, risk management, trading psychology. And recently, we've tried to condense everything in, at least everything we know, in a very simplified system in teaching Open Journal. Now, what we really want to do today is to just go back to the basics and to just teach everything in a very simplified manner, because one of the things we noticed is that now that everyone is just stuck at home, so many people are now coming online and starting to trade the stock market, forex, and crypto markets. And obviously, we want to just provide value by giving them not just the right techniques, but the right mindset and the right attitude in terms of approaching markets, and really just to bring everyone back to front and center on how to engage and look at financial markets. So with that, here is the Open Journal team. Matt, Joseph, say hi. Right, so with that, guys, let's begin. All right. So I'm going to share my screen, and so again, guys, welcome to our first Principles of Trading. We say it's a maiden seminar, a maiden webinar, because first of all, this is something that we will be doing in partnership with Instagrams every second Saturday of every month moving forward. And the best thing about it is that it's going to be free. And this is something that we hope to be doing with Instagrams for the next 50 years. Ano, okay ba yun, Toma?
Siyempre, basta ikaw. Basta kayo.
50 years, right? So we encourage you not just to listen in, but to also listen to the succeeding webinars that we will be hosting for First Principles. And one of the things that I always observed when I taught technical analysis in 2013 to 2019, pretty much 6 years, 2 times a month for every month, I pretty much gave, I don't know, over 156-hour sessions of technical analysis for free. And one of the things I noticed was that so many people would always come in regularly. And the reason for that is that it's always important to refresh ourselves on the basics and to refresh ourselves on the techniques and principles relative to what's ongoing sa market at that certain point. What that means is, for the principles that we will be teaching today, we will be using real-time examples, real-time charts, real-time stocks that are moving, real-time opportunities that we can participate in, and even real-time concerns that most traders have today. I understand that most of you traders are now clamoring, has the bull market come back? Philippine bull market na. So we'll be tackling that later as well, using the principles that we will be talking about today. And the best thing about today is that all of what we will be teaching today are techniques and principles that are often taught in other seminars that will charge you an arm and a leg. Today, we will be giving it to you guys for free. And this is going to be every month moving forward in partnership with Instagrams. And the only guarantee I can give you is that the content that we will be providing here will only be getting better and better. So with that, let's get started. The first thing I want to start with is, when it comes to trading, and so many people coming to trading financial markets, syempre, ang daming taong nalulula sa umakyat ng ASEN, post ng screenshot, kumita ng ganito. Pag kumita ng ganito, magpa-mentor kayo sa akin. Ba? Ang dami nagpo-post ng mga port snaps. So, there's so many people just getting the wrong first impression of trading. And I wanted to begin today's presentation by sharing with you what trading is not, and the biggest misconceptions in trading. Now, the first misconception that I want to start with is, trading is only pang short term or pang short time. Sabi nila, di ba? The biggest misconception that I've always encountered over the past 10 years of teaching technical analysis is that when you approach people, often let's say older generations, baby boomers, or traditional people in the stock market, or even you people, when you come to them and ask and tell them, oh, I'm a trader, what do you do? Oh, I do technical analysis, I trade. Then the first thing that comes to their mind, the first top of mind that comes to them is, so pang short term ka, buy and sell ka short term. That's the first misconception. When in reality, most people who learn technical analysis know that trading or the skill of trading is actually used across multiple time frames. So obviously you have short-term guys. Obviously the Philippines, the guy who popularized short-term trading was Nico Sayo with Chupitero.com. Chupitero is short-term buying and selling. But the reality is, most of the money is made in medium to long-term trades. What do I mean by that is buying and selling and holding through a considerable period of time, holding through uptrends. And around the world, you see very successful long-term traders. Guys like Paul Tudor Jones, guys like George Soros, guys like Stan Druckenmiller, who's famous in saying, I don't hold for the long term, but I do manage for the long term. What he means is that he tries to stay with the trend as long as the trend allows him to, but he doesn't buy and hold forever. So trading can actually be across multiple time frames. Now, the second misconception that I want to share with you is stock market is an easy way to a get rich quick lifestyle, or a lifestyle where you can just trade on the beach while sipping a mojito, right? And this is one of the very important misconceptions that I wanted to debunk, because I wanted to let you guys know, and I wanted to start with a very important note, that stock market is not easy. And I'll go back to what my mentor would always tell us, and he would maybe say this at least in my 7 years around him, he'd say this at least 50 times. And his famous saying is, mahirap yung negosyo na to. And he's a guy who's been in the markets, made his billions since the 1980s, right? And he says, mahirap talaga yung negosyo na to. And I want you to write this down if you have a pen and paper. I purposely decided to leave things out to ask you to write it down, so at least you guys have an active participation, active engagement. And what I want you guys to write down is, number one, 85% of people who get into the stock market lose money over the long run. I'll repeat, 85% of people who get into the stock market lose money over the long run. That's the number one. So you need to understand that since the stock market began in the 1700s, when the South Sea bubble was created, all the way to today, where it's here, the US or China, tech stocks, value stocks, whatever, long term, the statistic will always be 80 to 90% will lose money. We'll go to later in a bit why that's the case. So if 80 to 90% lose money, then it's not an easy business. The second thing I want to share with you is a statistic that not a lot of people know of. And this is a statistic that I picked up when I attended a seminar by Peter Maluk, who is the #1 financial advisor in the United States. So he's a financial advisor to guys like Tony Robbins, Paul Tudor Jones, Kyle Bass, a lot of hedge fund guys. And what he said is that over the past 20 years, if you count all the fund managers that have outperformed the S&P 500, if you count all the fund managers that outperform the benchmark index in the States, that number every year is only less than 4%. Ang ibig ko sabihin yan is in the States kasi, there are over 10,000 funds, whether it's a hedge fund, certified investment advisor, a mutual fund, a Vanguard, a Fidelity. There are over 10,000 funds. These are excluding brokerage accounts. So these are formally registered hedge funds, mutual funds, UITFs. Among the 10,000 every year, only less than 4%. What's 4%? 4% is less than 400, right? Only less than 4% are able to outperform the S&P 500. And iba pa yun yung the few people who do it consistently on a day-to-day basis. Yung 4% every year, iba-iba pa yung pangalan yan every single year. And that is a statistic that has been the truth for the last 20 years in the United States. In the Philippines, that 4% is much, much smaller. Naturally, because mas maganda yung market sa States eh. There are more opportunities, there are more innovations, there are more stocks that go up. Here, there aren't a lot of innovations, not a lot of opportunities. So that number, I believe, would be below 2% or under even 1%. And if you think of it that way, then if you think of the statistics that way, then would you actually look to put in minimal effort and just trade and just stay on the beach the whole time, live a lifestyle that does not involve a lot of hard work, a lot of grind, a lot of focus, right? So around the world, if you look at the numbers, it's really a tough business to be in. The stock market is not an easy way to get rich quick lifestyle. Because 90%, 80 to 90% fall by the wayside. And the last misconception that I want to bring to you guys is there's a misconception in the stock market that I'll just buy and hold for the long term because stocks go up over the long run. Now, this is something that I thought was relevant, especially for the time today. Because if you look at my screen, most people have this limiting belief that the stock market is this thin line over here where you have a business cycle that goes up, down. Let's say, for example, this is a 5-8 year period if you follow my mouse. And then you have another 5-8 period. And then you have another 5 to 8 period. And then you have another 5 to 8 year period. And then another 5 to 8 year period. And another 5 to 8 year period. Most people think that I'll just hold it for the long run kasi over the long term, the trajectory is really going up. So they think that the market is really something like this, where it's a group of business cycles. Let's say 8-year cycle, 7-8 year cycle, 7-8 year cycle, right? So this bottom, let's say, would be the COVID bottom. This prior bottom would be the 2009 bottom, the real estate crisis in the States, and this bottom would be the dot-com bottom in 97, or the Asian financial crisis, which came at the same time, and this one would be the 90s bottom, which was the Latin America crisis, and this one would be the savings and loan crisis, which happened in the 87, and this one, well, I don't know what happened, what crisis was during the early 80s, but you get my flow, right? So most people have this perception that the stock market is like this. But in reality, it's really like this, where you have a long-term cycle that most people don't realize. And that's the bold line over here. The bold line, which fundamentalists, even technicals, often refer to as the secular cycle, is really the long-term cycle. And around that long-term cycle, you have short-term cycles that go up and down. Short-term cycles that go up and down. So that's really how the stock market works. And this is how it's understood, whether in technicals, whether in macro, or whether in fundamentals. That, let's say, if I were to draw a timeline from left to right, this would be a 50-year or 100-year time frame. And over a 50-year time frame, you have this long-term cycle. This picture, by the way, is from How an Economic Machine Works by Ray Dalio. It basically shows the short-term cycles and the long-term cycle and how those work together. And this is essentially how a stock market looks like. And the reason why, as a tidbit, the reason why a lot of professionals got caught in the COVID drop, the last 12 months, is because everyone was simply looking at the business cycle, meaning they were looking at earnings, valuations, but what most people didn't see was that there was a drop in the long-term cycle, which is driven by other factors, longer-term factors like demographics, debt, technology, and all that, right? So these are just some of the misconceptions. Trading is only for short term, that's not true. Stock market is an easy way to get rich quick, that's not true. And that's been true especially for the past 12 months if you've experienced the kind of drop that happened in the past, or the challenge that's happened at least March, April, May, or Feb, March, April, then you know that it's not an easy way. You get hit once and you're out, right? And lastly, I'll just buy and hold for the long term because stocks go up over the long run, right? Which essentially is not true. In fact, this is the single belief that is maybe responsible for majority of the losses for 2020. For those people who said that, stock market outperforms all asset classes over the long run, I'll just hold it because over the long run, blue chips go up, or over the long run, stocks naman go up, hindi naman sila buwabagsak. Yan ang dahilan kung bakit maraming nasaktan this year, right? And so those are just some of the misconceptions. Now, let's go through our roadmap for today and what you will learn in today's first principles. The first is, obviously, begin with the right mindset. Right mindset is always very important when beginning anything. So today, we will start with how success in trading financial markets looks like. What the big picture of success looks like. Because at the end of the day, you need to begin with the end in mind, and you need to have that perspective, because having that perspective will influence how you operate from the beginning. And then we will go through a 3-step simple process that you can simply go through to trade stocks effectively, right? And this 3-step process is a generic 3-step process that applies to every single trading or investing system. So let's go through the first step. Step 1 is you will learn today how to identify and follow the right stocks. That's step 1. How to choose what stocks to participate in. Step 2, look for pockets of weakness as an opportunity to enter these stocks. So we'll help you identify those later and how to actually how to understand why those pockets of weakness are happening and how to enter them as they are starting to move higher. And lastly, step 3, you want to be the best gardener. What do I mean by that? When you're a gardener, you want to hold your flowers and you want to cut your weeds. You want to cut your weeds, you don't want to smoke them. Joke lang, right? What I mean is, when you're a gardener, what you do every day is that you plant seeds. Right? You plant seeds, you plant, and you don't know if the seeds are going to fall along a fertile soil. You don't know if seeds are going to be in a soil with rocks. You don't know if the seeds are going to be in a dry soil. We don't know, right? Nobody knows. And the reality is some seeds are going to grow to flowers and some seeds are going to grow to weeds. And like any gardener, your job is to take care of the garden every day. And as the weeds are growing up, you need to take off the weeds habang maliit pa sila before they destroy the whole plot of land. And that's really what trading is about, right? You just have to be the best gardener possible. So you cut out the weeds while they're small, and the seeds that turn out to be flowers, yun yung mga aalagaan mo. Yun yung mga papabayaan mong lumaki. Yun yung mga papabayaan mong lumaki, pero let's say, aayusin mo ng konti, papanoorin mo ng mabuti, minsan pagising mo, minsan pag maganda talaga yung bulaklak, maamoy mo talaga, pagising mo sa umaga, mabaw talaga ng posisyon na to. Or minsan pagising mo, titingnan mo lang, ma-appreciate mo na okay talaga, no? And flowers are or a patch of land with a beautiful garden of flowers is what you want, because that is exactly the kind of garden that allows your money to work for you as opposed to you working for your money, right? So that's really what we're gonna learn today. And lastly, I'm also gonna add some timeless trading principles and techniques that will help you with a sustainable and profitable journey. And at the end, in open journal fashion, what we're gonna do is that we're gonna give away 10 free signed books. So we hope you guys stay till the end. We'll try to finish before 10 o'clock. Okay lang ba yun? Okay ba yun? We'll try to finish before time, so we appreciate everyone, especially those who came on time today, and we will respect everyone's time by finishing at the appropriate time given, which was between 5:30 to 6 p.m. And we're giving away 10 non-trading books later. Non-trading books that are essential. It's entitled Adulting, helping you guide your way through a time of change and uncertainty. And we just felt that it was a good book to give away during these times of change and uncertainty during COVID, right? So, with that, let's get started with beginning with the right mindset. How success in financial markets look like. And what I wanted to say is that to begin with the right mindset, you need to understand that trading is essentially a skill, right? When people think, over the years, dealing with clients, managing $500 million in the Philippine market, and over 80 clients at one point, I realized that as simple as this sounds, this is something that is still not understood by most people. Some people think that maybe because they're smart in school, then they can leverage on that to make money in the stock market. That's not true. Some people think that just because they're very good in business, they have a very good eye for business, they think that's going to translate to success in the stock market. That's not true. It's not consistently true, at least. Some people think that just because you are connected with the right people, the right circles, then that is a sustainable way of making money in the market. That is also not true, right? You may make money once, twice, but will it sustainably make you money over a lifetime? No. And what I want to say that ultimately trading is a skill, which means that you can't shortcut your way around it. You need, like any skill, like studying medicine is to becoming a doctor, studying law is to becoming a lawyer, studying business is to becoming a good businessman, or going to the golf course, putting in your swings and hitting those balls is the key to becoming a good golfer. You need to put in the time and the effort to building that skill. And that skill is called technical analysis. So technical analysis is